Hey guys, so I'm going to share a game with you today that I played this morning, and it uses the Black Lion defense, obviously played as black. I've been using this opening for probably 6 months now, and I kind of get mixed results with it. I think if you want to know more about it, then you should definitely check out Grandmaster Simon Williams' videos on it on YouTube. He's got some free introductions to it, but I'm going to give you a very quick introduction from the beginner improving player's perspective. So one of the things that is really cool about this opening for black is that you can play it against d4, you can also play it against d4, and what's really cool about it is that the first 12-13 moves are very often automatic. So if you play blitz, if you play 5-10 minute blitz, then you might find this is really helpful, because it as long as your opponent plays quite natural moves, then very often you can play literally the first 10, 12, 13 moves almost automatically, in some cases almost pre-moving. And that can give you a 1 minute, 2 minute head start in many cases on your competition. It is quite a sharp kind of setup, and it does tend to leave your opponent some counter-attacking opportunities, but when it works, and a lot of players won't have seen this and won't really know what to do, when it works, it can be very exciting and you can absolutely crush opponents. So I'm going to show you a game that I played today against a player from India, 100 points below me, and he started with e4. Okay, now the following moves are pretty straightforward. So you know, move 1 is always d6. Very often white will come and grab the center with d4. You play knight f6. Okay, and this is actually the pitch defense at this point. And I'll show you how it maps out. So standard moves: knight c3, then knight to d7, brings his bishop out, and then I play e5 on move 4. Okay. Now sometimes some kind of beginner players will capture here. I don't think that's really the best move. If they capture and there's only the pawn on there, so the knight hasn't yet come out to f3, then you can recapture with the knight here, attack the bishop and gain tempo that way. But otherwise, you'll very often see this as well. The advance to d5, move 5 for black is bishop to e7, and it looks like we're going to castle kingside, but in fact we're not. And very often with this opening, you don't castle at all. Bishop can come out, that's fine. If bishop takes, I recapture with the bishop. And then my next move, this is all standard stuff, okay? And if you go through Simon Williams, that's Ginger GM's videos, he will teach you the stages of this, but it's exactly as I'm doing it here. Okay, white shouldn't capture with the d-pawn, but if they do, you recapture with b7. That's pretty straightforward. Okay, here he's decided to capture the knight. That's not too much of an issue, because that knight isn't really one of my danger pieces at this point. So I just recapture the bishop, and then we carry on with our normal development. Okay, next one is normally queen to c7, where the queen is then helping in the defense of e5. But right now you'll see that I've got a bishop and a knight, and of course the d-pawn, all defending e5 right now, so that's not too much of an issue. I just thought I'd bring my queen out here to b6 and just have a little poke here towards b1. Okay, so my opponent now moved his rook across. That means he's not going to castle queenside, so I move my queen back to the natural position c7. White castles kingside, absolutely understandable, and then we carry on. h6, and then g5 will follow, and then there's an interesting knight maneuver. Okay, so white plays b3, normal looking. I play g5, and now what's going to happen is this knight here from d7 is going to come around first to f8, then g6, and then f4. Okay, so let's see how that happens. White plays h3, it's fairly quiet. Here comes my knight, and white now is starting to maneuver his knight round. I think if we go back, he can see that this knight doesn't really have much of a future on this side of the board, so he's going to try and bring it maybe to here, to there, which is quite common as a defensive tactic. So his knight comes round, my knight continues its incursion into white's territory. Then he decides to play c4. I'm not concerned about this. I can easily, I think, block up the queen side. You do have to be careful about queenside attacks in this opening. We're going to be attacking down the king side. Okay. Now in comes the knight. Now this is a nice square for the knight. It's defended there by 2 pawns. What I would like to do is I would like that knight to be captured. Okay. And then I would recapture with the g pawn, thereby opening up this file. Then I've got a semi-open file. Then what I would do is try and think about moving my rook across there to g8, and then we've got ideas of the bishop, light square bishop coming in, capture on h3. Can't be recaptured because the g2 pawn would be pinned. Okay, slightly complex, but it's worked several times. Now, very often you'll find that the dark squared bishop is still on its starting place on c1, and very often the dark squared bishop will come in from here and capture that knight, and then we recapture. Okay, that doesn't happen in this case, but he does recapture with his knight that's just moved back round. So I recapture there. I've now got this nice semi-open g file. Knight moves back, and now it's time to think about my attack. So first move, rook to g1, and remember then my light square bishop is going to want to strike from a distance there and capture that h3 pawn. In this case, white did not spot this move. He is actually making his moves pretty quickly at this point. He's got 17 minutes left at this point. I've still got 19 minutes left. But yeah, I notice on the score, the move order here, that he's 14 seconds, 16 seconds, 4 seconds, 7 seconds. Yeah, he's not taking an awful long time. But this is also something that I find can happen if you've got a system like the London system or like this Black Lion that allows you to play quite a few moves very rapidly. Okay, then one of the things that can do is actually put a kind of psychological pressure on your opponent. It doesn't work against computers. But your opponent can sit there thinking, okay, my time is now being eaten up. I need to play quickly. Okay, because it also allows you to think on their time. So in comes the bishop. Pawn on g2 is pinned by the rook, so that can't recapture. And this is where it all starts to fall apart for white. Tries to defend with the rook. Okay, that's fine. He's got 2 defenders on that pawn. I've got 2 attackers, so I can't take. But then I can swing in my other bishop. Kicks the rook away. Now I decide to castle because it's a quick way to get my other rook into the game. That's all that is. And then I think this is a really rash move. So white plays g4, hoping that he's going to be able to get some kind of pawn protection here. But you know, he's jumped straight from h2 to h4, and I do have a pawn on f4, so I can take en passant, which I do. Attacking the knight. Knight has to move back. And you can see now it's starting to look extremely uncomfortable and very, very dangerous here for white. I just simply move my rook up to g7, preparing to double up my rooks, and just basically blast my way through here on the king side. White doubles up his rooks on the second rank. That's not a bad idea. I double up my rooks, and he moves his knight, because obviously, you know, this pawn would be coming next, defended by 3 pieces. So I just move my bishop, kick the knight again, knight moves back there, and I decide to just push my h-pawn up. My h-pawn could be a very instrumental piece here, you know, joining in on the attack. moves his queen over to address the g3 pawn, which is currently undefended because my bishop is blocking the rooks. So I defend the pawn with h4, moves his rook back, I can capture the knight, and now it's just looking extremely messy. So I move my queen over just to cut off the options really. Now g1 isn't available for the king, and king comes in. I move my bishop out of the way. Who's his bishop? Now my queen's going to come back because this king is now, it's moving away from his pieces, so he's very vulnerable at this point. But he couldn't really have got through very easily to safety anyway. I decide to push up now. So I'm giving check with h3. What's the king going to do? I mean, he really doesn't have many options now. So he takes there, and then rook there is not checkmate because the king can come back, but then I can come in. King only has one move. I check again by moving the queen back to b6. Blocks with the rook, but this is now pretty much the end of the game. Well, it is entirely the end of the game because pawn takes rook is actually checkmate. This rook is defended by this bishop. The rook is guarding every square. The king can't take the pawn because my queen is defending the pawn, and that's it. End of the game. So if you're interested in this, if you like playing active, sharp, dangerous chess, then this is a solid opening. It works. I mean, I use it in rapid. I use it at 30 minutes, but it works really, really well as well at blitz when you're black, and it gives you a very kind of solid and comfortable way to respond to 1e4. If you don't like playing the Sicilian, which I've never got into the Sicilian, so I'm not a Sicilian player. So this is it is interesting. It is challenging. You will get exciting games. You will get attacked and counter-attacked. But yes, it's a whole heap of fun. So if you want to do it, go over this again. Look at those first few moves, okay? And also check out Simon Williams' free videos on the subject as well. He also has a course on the Black Lion as well if you are more serious, but that's going to be very, very deep in theory. Okay, so really good opening. I would recommend it to most improving players. Very useful and a whole heap of fun. I'll see you next time.